Coming up on today's episode of Airborne Unlimited, Captain sues Boeing over flight that lost door plug. FAA says airport violated Fed law over surplus revenue. Van's RV-12 reportedly stolen in Washington. Welcome to Airborne Unlimited. I'm your host, Helen Blee. Let's get into today's stories. Captain sues Boeing over flight that lost door plug. The Alaska Airlines pilot who was flying a Boeing 737-9 MAX when the plane lost a panel in mid-flight is suing Boeing and Spirit Aerosystems for $10 million, alleging the company is trying to shift blame to him for the company's negligence. Attorneys for pilot Brandon Fisher filed the lawsuit in Multnomah County Circuit Court in Portland, Oregon, asking $10 million in damages. In January 2024, Flight 1282 took off from Portland bound for Ontario, California. At 16,000 feet, 6 minutes after takeoff, a door plug in the 26th row flew off, creating a 2x4-foot hole in the panel that covered a deactivated emergency exit. It caused an immediate depressurization. Fisher and co-pilot Emily Whiprud declared an emergency and descended below 10,000 feet, then landed back in Portland. None of the 171 passengers or 6 crew members on board were seriously injured. Lawyers for Boeing in a lawsuit wrote that the company wasn't responsible because the plane had been, quote, improperly maintained or misused by persons and/or entities other than Boeing, end quote. Fisher alleges in the suit that Boeing deliberately shifted blame toward him and his first officer. The company's statement was intended to, quote, paint him as the scapegoat for Boeing's numerous failures, end quote. As a result, Fisher has been scrutinized for his role in the incident and named in 2 lawsuits by passengers. And after the break, NASA head Isaac Min donating salary to space camp. Welcome back. Now let's take a trip around the patch for some shorter stories. NASA head Isaac Min donating salary to space camp. Jared Isaacman, the newly appointed administrator of NASA, is donating his salary to the U.S. Space and Rocket Center Space Camp. Isaacman made the announcement of his donation in a letter thanking the Senate for his confirmation and President Trump for his nomination. The Space and Rocket Center shared his letter on Facebook. Quote, I will donate my salary as administrator to the U.S. Space and Rocket Center Space Camp to help prepare the pioneers of tomorrow, end quote. Isaacman's salary has not been officially announced, but the job typically pays about $200,000 per year. Alaska Airlines to rapidly roll out Starlink service after E-175 success. Alaska Airlines is moving up the fleet-wide rollout of Starlink in-flight Wi-Fi after early performance on its Embraer E-175s met and apparently exceeded expectations. The airline will now begin installations on the remainder of its E-175s, as well as its Boeing 737 and 787s, shrinking a timeline that previously stretched into 2027. Starlink entered service on Alaska's E-175 regional jets in late 2025. This was the airline's first operational use of SpaceX's low Earth orbit satellite system. Congress returns to take up transportation bill. Congress needs to pass 9 different spending bills before a January 30th deadline, including the transportation bill with funding for the FAA, the military, and a handful of measures that cover other non-defense agencies. Missing the January 30th deadline could mean another government shutdown. A bill exempting controllers from future government shutdowns is in the House Transportation Committee and the Senate Commerce Committee. The heads of those authorizing panels are all for paying controllers during a shutdown in the wake of this fall's airport chaos. Supersonic flight bill clears committee. A bipartisan bill to allow civil supersonic flight under certain conditions over the U.S. has cleared a House committee in December. President Donald Trump signed an executive order that directs the administrator of the FAA to repeal the prohibition on overland supersonic flights, as well as to establish an interim noise-based certification standard, quote, and repeal other regulations that hinder supersonic flight, end quote. The law banning commercial aircraft supersonic flight over the U.S. went into effect in 1973. That's it for today's Trip Around the Patch. Let's get back to the rest of the news. FAA says airport violated Fed law over surplus revenue. KSMO has screwed up again. The FAA issued a ruling that Santa Monica Municipal Airport violated federal law by accumulating surplus revenues and intending to use the funds for general city services after the airport closes, rather than for aviation purposes as required by law. Michael Helvey, FAA director, wrote in his director's determination on December 22nd that the city's actions do not comply with revenue use restrictions and federal grant assurances. Helvey's ruling orders Santa Monica to revise its fee structure within 30 days and implement new aeronautical rates within 60 days. Helvey wrote, quote, the director finds that the city's actions are not in conformance with Grant Assurance 25, which requires a sponsor to commit to expending airport revenue generated while the airport is obligated on the capital and operating expenses of the airport, end quote. The ruling comes out of a July 2024 complaint filed by pilot Mark Smith, Kim Davidson Aviation, and the National Business Aviation Association. The complaint alleged that the city separated aeronautical and non-aeronautical revenue surpluses, and in doing so failed to use the entire revenue surplus to reduce rates charged to aviation users of the airports. The city projects a non-aeronautical surplus of about $19 million by December 31, 2028, when the city is allowed to close the airport according to a 2017 settlement agreement. After these messages, Van's RV-12 reportedly stolen in Washington.
I'm currently using the Hartzell Talon, by far the best aerobatic propeller ever come out.
I use the Trailblazer. It adds performance to the Super Decathlon and dependability, and it's rugged.
Hartzell's been an excellent partner for Whip Air, just in terms of your product support as well as keeping an eye on the market and developing new products that meet demand.
It's helping us all have better performing airplanes.
It's such a proud honor to fly behind that propeller.
The legendary BD 4-seat program is building an exciting future for those who want a rugged 4-seat family flyer with a proven history. The SureWings program produces a complete kit and builder assist program that gives you everything you need to be flying a BD 4CS in record time. For conventional kit builders, BD Aviation has parts, partial kits, and full kits for the 190-mile-per-hour BD 4C that has logged thousands of hours. Visit SureWings.com and BDAviation.com for more details.
Welcome back. Van's RV-12 reportedly stolen in Washington. It's an aircraft owner's worst nightmare. A 2020 model Van's RV-12 was reportedly stolen from its hangar at Auburn Municipal Airport in Auburn, Washington on January 3, 2026. The owner discovered the aircraft was missing on January 5th. The plane is registered as November 107 Tango Foxtrot and is described as unpainted silver, bare aluminum. It features a prominent circular sticker on the tail that reads Teen Flight. Approximately 2 minutes after takeoff, the felonious pilot manually turned off the transponder, preventing ATC radar tracking. There have been some reports that the plane was headed east. The 2C aircraft is currently listed as stolen in the National Crime Information Center database. Law enforcement and local pilots are actively monitoring regional airstrips and private hangars for the unpainted aircraft. Strangely enough, a different stolen aircraft, snatched from California, showed up at Auburn right after Christmas. If you believe you've spotted the plane, you are urged to contact local authorities or the Auburn Police Department at auburnwa.gov. And that's our show for today. You can catch episodes of Airborne on YouTube, Roku, or Fire TV. Just search for Aero-News or Airborne. And don't forget to follow us on social media. Thanks for watching.